Alright, so this is just We the People News. I'm not an attorney. I'm not going to give legal advice. Why? Because I'm not an attorney. That's why, people. I never look straight forward. I always look around me to be able to protect myself by any means necessary. So, I must always look around, even outside the box. Some people say this may or may not be true, but it doesn't really matter because you're not going to know until you start looking at it through the outside of the box and not what everybody else be believed to be true and correct. Okay? Remember, world is full of lies. You got to navigate through the lies to find the truth sometimes. Okay? This video is going to be without prejudice or without recourse. Okay? So, I'm going to stay arm length from it, okay? Because again, I don't know anything. And I'm just thinking outside the box. I'm trying to stay at that straight line. Alright, here we go.
You don't have to consent. Even Theresa May says we have a police force in this country. We are policed by consent.
I know.
Let me just go through this very quickly. There's two things to a police constable. That's two things. Police. The term police comes from policy. The policy man is enforcing the policies of the Crown Corporation, of which you are a citizen, which means worker, which means slave, and you've handed your will and your life over to that. Constable is something completely different. A constable has sworn an oath, which means he's in his honour, to prevent a breach of the peace. That's all he's there for. So he's got two roles. Now, if you say to him, I don't recognise you as a policy enforcement officer, but I do recognise you as a constable, and you will honour your oath. If you refuse to honour your oath, then under common law, you've committed perjury. That's a common law offence. If you swear an oath and you go back on that oath, that's a common law offence. If he insists, after you've rebutted that and said you don't want to do it, and you haven't given a name and address or anything like that, or contracted, and he still insists to fine you, because you can't fine even under English law, you have to have a court de jure, a jury as well, he still does that. He's then committed fraud, which is another common law offence. The maximum penalties for perjuries, I believe, is 25 years, and fraud is 25 years as well. Those are common law offences, and he's sworn an oath to uphold those. So if you go along to the police station and say to the sergeant, I've not contracted with this guy, the proof that I haven't contracted is he hasn't got my name and address. Do you want to add kidnap to that? Because he's committed perjury, he's attempted to commit fraud, and you're going to kidnap me until I give you something that isn't my property, because that name isn't my property. In other words, you're asking me to give you something that isn't my property. As a police officer, do you think that's a good thing to do? I'll wind up. My intention was to stimulate you guys to do some research. I hope that's what you've done.
I was waiting for this all my life.
I sit in the bookstore.
Alrighty, so there you go. I don't know, people. You think about it. Does it or does it not make sense? After all, we've been seeing videos how they keep actually going more by policy than the Constitution, and when you ask them what is the First Amendment or such on, they will never tell you. Number one, they're not allowed to answer questions. So, officers know the Fifth Amendment better than you do, people. And they don't even have that right. You know? So, therefore, it has to be a policy. There's not to answer questions because they're not allowed to plead the Fifth because they have zero rights. They are a corporation. They are in business. Zero rights. If you work at Walmart, you signed over your rights when you signed that application. You have zero rights in Walmart while you're working for them. They got policies and all that, to control you, and you have zero rights. Alright, so this is Diesel with the People. Till next time. Bye, y'all.